Welcome back to our world-renowned summer series for Scissors and Scrubs. I'm Nicole.
I'm Laura.
We have some weird shit today. It's no other way to say it than we have some weird shit today.
Well, I mean, it fits.
It
the bill.
fits. It's weird. My stories, I had seen a video on this, and it has disturbed me ever since.
Because you watch disturbing fucking videos.
Because you know I love that shit.
It's because you're disturbed.
I'm disturbed. You know, it's something wrong with me.
And mine on like, I don't know, Instagram or something, this thing came up and I was like, what the F is this? And it was like a guy. I'll get into it when I tell that story. But and I was like, what is this? And I was like, I can't watch this because it was one of those
You should have sent it to me because I would have watched it.
I'm not watching it. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not watching that. But then I was like, oh, I know what we can do.
Yeah, so we kind of paired these up, our disturbing summer stories. And yeah, so Sparkles is going to start it with her disturbing weird shit.
I'm talking about whirlpools.
Whirlpool. Making in the, you're in the summer.
I literally have that in here.
3-foot pool.
Yep.
Woof, woof, caving in the sides.
So I got this from BBC.com, SmithsonianMag.com, and LiveScience.com. So I literally started. Remember being little in your friend's above ground pool? You would all get together, form a line, and swim in the same direction and get a whirlpool going.
It was the best.
And then you try to swim the opposite way against it, like see who could do
and
that.
You're like, ugh.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so hard. I can't
You
get
gotta
through.
go in the other way. My father would be like, stop, you're gonna collapse the pool.
It was so much fun.
Loved it.
I'm not talking about those kind of whirlpools. So real whirlpools are not like that. They are a phenomena that form when water moving in two different directions come into contact with each other and interact. They cannot continue moving at the same speed and direction through each other, so they are forced to turn and swirl around each other. Depending on the volume of the water and the force of the collision, they can be different sizes. Some form and disappear over a short period of time, like the water goes by each other, swirls and goes away. While some are around for centuries. Centuries. Larger, more dangerous whirlpools are called maelstroms, and they can fatally engulf anyone that comes too close. They can occur in rivers, lakes, oceans, anything that has water that's moving. Mm-hmm. Most people will never come in contact with a whirlpool, but here are some safety tips to know if you do, especially if you are a kayaker. If there are any signs of a whirlpool in the area, do not enter the water. There's usually signs placed above areas that could form whirlpools, do have whirlpools. There are warning signs. Mm-hmm. But if there's water moving in two different directions, it's not the safest place to be in. If you're already in the water and see one, avoid the center of the whirlpool. Try to stay to the edge of the water that is involved. When in a boat or kayak, try to prevent the boat from filling with water. A whirlpool can throw you back out if the boat isn't swamped. Oh. So if you can keep the boat afloat and you get into it, it can and usually will spit you back out as long as you aren't bogged down. Remain calm and avoid panicking, as this will help you conserve energy and oxygen.
I love when they say this, but if you're in it, you're like, shit, I'm in a fucking whirlpool.
Wait for your moment to escape, as whirlpools usually have a cycle of intensity and relaxation. Find a solid object to hold on to or rely on your personal flotation device to keep you afloat. Anytime you're in a kayak, or any kind of boat, you should be wearing a life vest anyways. Mm-hmm. Avoid getting caught in a whirlpool in the first place by heading downriver and steering clear of obstacles. They said dams and stuff can also cause this. Identifying the type of whirlpool you are facing, such as standing, vertical, or horizontal, and use different strategies to get out of them. You would have to look that up.
I'm not.
Increase your survival odds by wearing a helmet, a life jacket, and a whistle, and by traveling with a partner.
All you can hear is my as I'm going around and around.
There are 5 world-famous whirlpools.
Oh.
If I can say any of these correctly, I will be shocked. Saltstraumen in Norway. It's known for its strong tidal current. It's just south of the city of Bodo, in a small strait that has the strongest tidal current in the world.
Oh, wow.
The whirlpool is where, oh my God, these words.
Some river meets the
Skurgerstad, Ford, and Saltenford linked together. Water travels at 10 meters per second. The maelstrom is 32.8 feet wide.
Wow.
And 16.4 feet deep.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. Oh my God. Moskastraumen, also in Norway. It's one of the strongest whirlpools. It is in the Norwegian Sea between Moskin Island and the southern part of Moskinsoa Island. It is about 160 feet in diameter.
Wow.
Old Sow. That's my favorite because I can actually say it.
Yeah, Old Sow.
Old Sow, one of the largest whirlpools in the Western Hemisphere. It is formed in the waters between Dare Island and Moose Island in Canada, just over the border in Maine.
Oh, wow.
It can vary in size within the diameter of around 250 feet.
Holy shit.
There are usually several smaller whirlpools surrounding it. They said you can stand on those islands and see it.
Wow. I'd like to see that, though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Naruto whirlpools are located between Tokushima and Hyogo, Japan. It can be 66 feet in diameter. Water enters the narrow Naruto Strait at speeds of 12 miles per hour in spring tides. So these form more in the spring. And this is, God help me, Corey Vrecken is located between two rocks off the west coast of Scotland.
I've heard about this place.
It is produced by an uneven seabed. So there's deep pits and basalt pinnacles, and that increases the speed of the water there. It is considered to be the third largest whirlpool in the world. Since Old Sow is so close to us, I'm going to read some encounters that Robert Godfrey chronicled in the Smithsonian article, Close Encounters with the Old Sow. I love that.
Sounds like a bad movie.
Name of it.
Yeah.
So this guy, he lives up there, and he's like, a water guy, and he knows all these guys that go out there. So these are just some stories. I'm going to read them how he wrote them. In one tragic event in 1835, a two-masted schooner from Dare Island set sail with two brothers aboard. She went down in the whirlpool while the poor boy's mother watched in horror from shore as the schooner sank helplessly. Those men were never seen again.
What's at the bottom of these?
The dirt. Water.
So what does it, just suck them down and they can't come out?
Yeah. And they drown.
Yeah.
And then I think it shoots you,
Shoots your dead body back out. That old sound.
No, it doesn't go back up, but like when you're down, because then you just go with the flow of the water. In the 1940s, a motorized freighter carrying sardines from Lubec, Maine,
sorry, but that's
to St. Andrews, New Brunswick, passed over the Old Sow at precisely the wrong moment. A funnel opened beneath its bow, and the ship dropped precipitously forward into the hole. Its propeller popped out of the water. Steering her was futile, and the vessel slid slowly down the wall of the gyre. Finally, the propeller caught water again. With that and a prayer, the skipper was able to steer the freighter to safety.
Shit.
So it was just going down, but once the propeller hit, it was able to scoot out. Then he says he has a friend, Bill. He's a graduate of the Maine Maritime Academy, and he once owned a tugboat service in Eastport, Maine. Bill was out with 3 passengers one day and found himself suddenly staring into a 12-foot hole in the water, at least 40 feet in diameter, he claims. His passengers, pale with fear, fiercely gripped the gunwales. Bill said it required all the power he could squeeze from his boat's motor to keep from slipping into the whirlpool. Bill claims today that in the time-honored ship's captain fashion, and to keep up the confidence of his passengers, he displayed no outward signs of fear. Whenever he tells the story, however, he always says that experience is one of the most horrifying events of his life. Wow. Can you imagine just the water going out from under you?
Nope.
Another Eastport resident, Skip, told of a time as a young man that he and his cousin and his uncle were fishing in his open motorboat. As they neared Dog Island, just off the northeast end of Moose Island, all the islands are named after animals.
Well, it's easy to remember.
In a short distance from Dare Island Point.
I don't know how you have Dog, Moose, and then the Old Sow.
Well, it's a sow. Their forward progress unexpectedly slowed, even though they were sailing with the direction of the tide. Skip heard a loud noise astern, and when he glanced behind, there spun a large whirlpool, pulling the boat backward. Skip's cousin, filled with fear, attempted to jump overboard to swim.
Oh my God, that would be
Island.
Such a mistake.
Yeah, but the uncle grabbed him like this right before he could get off and saved his life. Skip recalled his father's advice: if you ever get caught in the Old Sow, don't fight it. Just keep control of the boat, prevent it from swamping, and you'll be thrown back out of it. Skip kept a cool head, followed the instructions, and sure enough, they were spun out of the vortex and survived to fish another day. And then during a recent summer, a seasoned sailor and artist who lives on Dare Island, Dave, sailed with a buddy in a small motorless sailboat just south of Cherry Island. Now we're getting into the food islands.
Oh, yeah.
Which is to the south of the major whirlpool activity. Suddenly, as if the ocean had fallen from beneath them, they dropped below the normal surface so far that they could only see the water walls of the hole they were in. A few seconds later, they popped back up. The sea returning to normal, as if nothing had occurred. Dave estimated the hole to be about 12 feet deep.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. When in a human-powered vessel, so like a kayak or a rowboat or whatever, it pays to know when the Old Sow will awaken. 2 summers ago, a couple of kayakers ventured too close to Old Sow. The man made it safely away while his wife, spinning helplessly in the vortex, had to be rescued. That's why you should have that whistle. And then a local couple were powering their Boston whaler through the Western Passage, the body of water between Maine and Dare Island. Suddenly, they found themselves in a deep, long trench in the water. The trench was over a mile long.
Oh, my God.
From just north of Dog Island, Eastport, to near Clam Cove, Dare Island. So these, like, it's not like you go and you're like, oh, there it is. I have to avoid it. It will just all of a sudden open
up underneath.
Yeah. So that's like...
Good reason why I probably would never sail around there.
Yeah. So what made me look into the whirlpools was a video that popped up on my feed about Jacob Cockle. He was a photographer, expert waterman, bodyboarder. I'm an excellent bodyboarder. And surfer. He was famous for uploading videos of underwater exploits. So he was like a YouTuber or whatever or, whatever you call them. And he would always do things in the water. He knew the water. He was very good in the water, whatever. On May 28th, 2013, he was out about to film a video. He had asked a friend to hand him his small camera on a stick and had planned to swim underwater. He was wearing a horse mask at the time for the video. He then disappeared.
Like a real horse face mask?
You know those plastic rubber horse masks?
Like, it looks like a horse?
Yeah.
Why the fuck is he wearing that?
I don't know. That's what I saw. So
why the fuck would you do that?
He then disappears. He's in a whirlpool. He was sucked down 40 feet and then swept 80 yards into the Carnsog Pool in the Hale Estuary, where he was spotted floating face down and finally rescued. He was airlifted to the Royal Cornwall Hospital, where he was confirmed dead. Police and Jacob's family are stressing the importance of staying away from whirlpools. The Carnsog Pool was constructed in 1830 to harness the power of tidal movements to flush sand from the harbor, and it is now part of a natural reserve in England. He was going to film what it looked like underwater, like near the whirlpool.
And it got him.
And he's done it like a million times. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a strong swimmer. If the water is more powerful than you.
People underestimate it all the time.
So the video that pops up on my thing, I'm like, what the F? Why did this even pop up? It's a guy in the ocean or whatever this is, pool of, natural pool.
In his horse mask.
In a horse mask going around in a circle because he's in
the pool,
the whirlpool. And I'm like, what is this? And then I was like, guy right before he died. I'm like, shut that off. But they have like the video of him like being sucked into the whirlpool. It's terrifying. The poor guy drowned in the whirlpool. Ugh. Don't go near a whirlpool.
To that Mr. Ballin. Have you heard of Mr. Ballin?
No, you've told me about that. Yeah.
And he talks about this place in England. And if you look at it, it just looks like a little creek. And there's like 2 pieces of land close, and you could almost skip over it. It's low. But underneath, it's like a cavern.
Oh,
and
no.
The way the water's coming through it, if you fall in it, you will 100% die because it sucks you to the wall and you drown.
Yeah.
And like he goes through all of the people who have fallen into this by accident, thinking they're just going to hop over this little thing, end up in this and get sucked in and die.
Oh,
I'm like, all this shit terrifies me.
Don't go near a whirlpool. If you see one, go to the get as far away as possible from it. If you fall into it, don't panic. It will hopefully split you out.
Well, Laura, we're going to go back in time. Nicole's about 24. And my girlfriend invites me up to vacation in Alaska. Mm-hmm. And I was like, sure. So myself and 2 of my friends, we go up to Alaska. She has friends who are stationed in Anchorage. We're going to stay with them. Anchorage, Alaska is amazing. Mm-hmm. All right. It's surrounded by mountains, glaciers, and mudflats. And these mudflats are extensive. And when the tide goes out, the tide goes out.
Yeah, it's like a mile.
Out.
Yeah.
It's fucking nothing but mud.
Crazy.
And then here comes 8,000 bald eagles to the mudflats to eat whatever's on the mudflats. Yeah. Okay. And like the Bay of Fundy, when the tide comes in, it comes in really fucking fast.
Yeah.
So these mudflats have always kind of terrified me because you can get stuck in them. And I remember looking at this video of a story I will talk about later with these mudflats. And It doesn't end well when you
No.
get stuck in the mudflats.
I can't imagine it would.
So the mudflats, the infamous and deadly mudflats of Cook Inlet, Turnagain Arm, and Nick Arm up and around Anchorage, Alaska. What are we going to talk about? That's the name of them. And the Nick Arm is going to come into play in a different story.
Okay.
All right. So the mudflats around Anchorage are similar to quicksand. The grains in the mud are highly angular because the water that is in the mudflats are from glaciers. So there's ice crystals in these. When they are deposited from the glacial runoff, they are in contact with each other in a very delicate balance. When you step on it, it becomes mobile. And then you sink. And then when it closes, they interlock again, all these little grains, because they're like little puzzle pieces. And now they stick. And now you can't fucking get out. So you go in there, it's going to suck around your foot. When you're in there, you are stuck. Oh There's no coming out of these. So some Alaskans they're able to cross these flats successfully, usually because they're people who live there and they know it. But there are many who sink, but they are successfully rescued. But that has more to do with how good the rescuers have become than how talented the people stuck in it. So it's one of the stories is from September of 1961. This comes from the Anchorage Daily Times. A 33-year-old soldier is walking onto the Palmer Slough Flats with 3 friends. They're all like hanging out. They're in the army. There's a lot of military bases up in Alaska. So he walks a little too close to the water, and he gets stunk.
Oh, God.
His friends think this is fucking hysterical. So they're sitting there laughing at him, mocking at him. And eventually, like, he's now like up to his knees. He can't get out. And a local hunter arrives, and he's like, yeah, guys, he's fucking stuck in this mud, and the tide's coming in. Like, you got to get some help. So finally, one of the friends leaves to get help. But instead of going to like the closest house, he drives to a town down the road of Wasilla. So the helicopter is called in, and the guy mishears instructions. He does not hear he's up to his neck. He hears he's up the nick.
Oh,
so he flies to the Nick Arm looking for him. Another guy, they're like, go light that bush on fire to get the helicopter over here.
Yeah.
He goes to light the bush on fire. The gas can blows up, sends the kid like flying out of the way. It's like a comedy of errors trying to get help to this kid. So a helicopter's called in. At this point, by the time the helicopter shows up, he is holding on to the boat because the water's up to his neck. So he's trying to breathe through and holding on to this poor hunter's boat who's got his 2 kids in the boat with him.
Oh, my God.
The hunter takes the barrel of his shotgun off of the shotgun and gives it to him to hold, like Elmer Fudd in the fucking cartoons. But the kid is so cold, he can't hold the water to his mouth. I mean, the gun barrel to his mouth. So he becomes hypothermic. He can't hold on to it. The hunter, his 2 sons, his 3 friends, and all the rescuers watch as the tide comes in and drowns him.
Oh, my God.
So the day after, they get a helicopter. They tie a cable around the body, and the cable snaps. Can't get him out.
Oh, my
So
God.
the Army now has to build a platform to get him out. This is the day after the cable snapped. And the body was recovered, quote, in a manner best not described here.
Oh, no. They cut him in pieces.
They had to basically cut him out of the mudflats. 1978, Air Force Sergeant, he tries to walk across the Turnagain Arm at low tide. A bore tide, I think, is like when you're in the Bay of Fundy. It gets funneled in. These tides get funneled in through these fjords, so they come in fast and furious, like an inch an hour. They come in really fucking fast. So he gets swept away by the tide in these inlets. He's never seen again. Now, this is the story that I caught on, and it was very upsetting.
Because the first one wasn't.
Oh, these get worse. So this is July 15th of 1988. The Turnagain Arm again. You have 18-year-old newlyweds. I think it's Adiana, Adeana, Adiana and Jay Dickinson. They're from Daytona, Nevada, but they're living up in Eagle River. They've only been married about a month. They are going to mine for gold out in the flats. Okay. So they're on their little ATV and they're fucking plowing through the mud flats. The ATV gets stuck in the mud flat. And it's like a tidal slough, so it's even more muddy and wet than the normal mud flats. So Adriana gets out, and she's in the back of the ATV, and she's trying to push the ATV out. Both her legs get stuck into the mud. The husband, so I go into again, like it says here, this was a quote from the article, that when the tide is low and the mud is firm enough to walk on, but when the water at any point starts to rise, it turns soft and you get stuck. Then when the water really comes in, it closes it around you and it turns to cement. And there was like a woman who was doing studies on the mud flats, and she's like, I was walking and then out of the blue, it fucking went liquid on me and I sunk, and a helicopter had to get her out. So he spends about 3 hours trying to get her out of the mud. He has a dredge, because they were going to go mining. It would dredge. He has a dredge. So he's using the dredge and he gets one leg out, but the belt breaks. And this is after 2 to 3 hours and the tide's coming in. So he finally runs up to the road and he finds some tourists and they take him to a local cafe and he calls for help. So the call for help comes in at 7:53 a.m. This is, like I said, 3 hours after he's been trying to get her out. So Alaska State Trooper Mike Alpaca arrives on scene first. He arrives, and when he gets there, she's already up to her chest in water. And he's like pulling on her. She is fucking in there. So he hears the fire engines coming. He tells her, look, we're going to get you out. Just take it easy, because she is hysterical at this point, right? He walks up to the road to get to the fire department. By the time he comes back, she's up to her neck.
Oh my God.
All right. So the fire department comes. She's up to her face, and it's coming in an inch per minute.
Per minute.
Per minute. I had to read that 3 times to make sure I read it right. It is like when we went to the Bay of Fundy, it is one of the coolest places I've ever been. And it is mud flats. Like it is completely no water. And we were going to do this tidal bore rafting. And they take in the little raft and then they park it on the mud flat. She's like, when the tide comes in, get back to the boat. I'm like, how do you know the tide comes in? She goes, you'll know when the tide comes in. I'm like, we live in New England. The tide takes fucking 6 hours to come in. She goes, you'll know when the tide comes in. I'm like, okay. What happens is you see this little water come in and it never stops. It just fucking comes in. Yeah. So you're standing there and within 3 minutes, your toes are now covered. Within less than 3 minutes, I mean, it just never stops coming in. So you have to run to the boat. And there's signs all over the Bay of Fundy. When the tide comes in, get off the flats. We should do how many people have drowned on the Bay of Fundy, because when it comes in, it doesn't stop coming in. It's not like a normal tide. It's just going to rush in. I think they said the weight of Nova Scotia, the entire landmass collapses under how much tide comes in at that time. Wow. It's a 6 foot and it comes in within minutes. And what creates the bore is the tide's coming in so fast, it hits the rivers and it creates rapids. That's a whole nother story. Fucking blast. So it's coming in an inch per minute. So at this point, she is begging them to save her. Alpaca and the paramedics are in the water with her, and they're holding her, and they have a hose. They've now put a hose in her mouth and stuck it above the water so she can breathe. The fire department, they have the right equipment, but they were called too late. So they can't dredge fast enough because the water's coming in. So by the time backup crews arrive with divers, she's been in the water, underwater, for an hour. She's hypothermic. She can't hold on to the hose anymore, and she drowns in front of all of them. Mike Alpaca held on to her as long as possible. This is his quote. I was holding on to her as she drowned. I'm hanging on to her, and I had to let her go. I had no feelings in my arms, in my hands. I just had to let her go. She was alive and conscious, and there was nothing I could do. After the tide went out 6 hours later, they retrieved the body, and she is still, like the leg was still stuck. So what they do is they bring in fire hoses, and they would stick, you know how powerful a fire hose is. They're going to stick the fire hose next to you and fucking turn it on, and it floods the mud to get them out. So, so one of the questions that was asked of the team is, why didn't you just cut her leg off? So this again is a quote right out of here, but it's going to take me a minute because I can't see it that great. All right. They said, that is easier said than done. Sure, that's better than death, but she might not have survived anyway. That would take somebody with some real skill. We don't carry the right instruments. It's not going to be quick and easy, said Trooper Sergeant Paul Harris. I've taken a lot of moose legs off, and I'm telling you, it's not going to be quick and easy. And they also said there's a liability factor from doing something like that. If the water comes in and she drowns, that's nature that drowned her. If you cut her leg off and she dies, you killed her, Harris said. A local diving company now owns a sophisticated piece of equipment which looks like the top of a wetsuit. It's heated. It contains compressed air and a microphone so rescuers can talk to them.
Oh, like put a hood on.
So they will, if you're stuck in the mud, they're going to put this whole thing over you to keep you heated.
God. Yeah.
It has air and you can talk till they can get you out. It's going to buy them some time. I don't know, like that was 6 hours before the tide went out. I don't know how long that would buy you. If we had known about it, we would have had more time to work with her. The troopers had arranged to rent the device for future rescues, planning to fly it to the scene of the helicopter. And the last thing I have to say about these poor troopers. Another page flip. Sorry, guys. The rescuers on this particular scene in the fight to save Adriana Dickinson had suffered since the horrible day on the mudflats. Several days later, they met with psychiatrists for critical incident stress debriefing. One guy was a new member. He never had anything to lead him up to something like that. The others had dealt with someone dying. The one guy had talked to her, and she looked him in the eye and said, "Please don't let me drown. It's something we're all going to live with, and it's always going to be in the back of our minds."
Yeah.
Like, to have somebody look you in the face
and just watch them.
And you have nothing, you cannot help them. It has got to be one of the most horrific things. Yeah. So, yeah, they must have done like a recreation of that, because I don't know if there's actual video from that day. I'm sure you could find it somewhere. But what... So when I knew that story before I went up there, and all I looked at it was those fucking mud flats. I'm like, nope, not going in there. I don't know. Alaska's probably one of the most deadliest places in the world, because if the mud flats don't get you, you got the fucking grizzly bears or the moose that's going to collapse in your car. When Vienna was in preschool, the preschool teacher's daughter lived in Alaska. She's fucking driving along, mind her own business. Ice falls in the car, major TBI.
Oh my God.
She was in the ICU for weeks from this, totally fucking crushed her. Oh, yeah, okay.
Lovely.
I didn't even know the reason we moved to Alaska. Yeah. So, that's part of our world.
Great.
I mean, who knew we'd cover that shit, right?
Yeah,
some good stuff.
Gross.
Yeah, it was gross. But I will say Alaska is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
Yeah, I want to go.
So if you get to go up there, it's something to see. Like, there's moose in the parking lot. There's wild animals everywhere. It's Yellowstone on crack. It's insane. Absolutely gorgeous. Loved it. Go back in a second. Just stay away from the mud flats.
Yeah.
Or make sure
I'll
you
do
have
a cruise.
Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise? All right. So enjoy your summers, nights here.
Yeah. Stay away from mud flats.
Stay away from mud flats. Send us in some emails. I know it's summertime. Don't take a vacation, ladies and gentlemen. We want to hear from you. Give us some ideas.
Yeah.
We might have to consult our girlfriend who gave us the list of 400 ideas.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that list.
See if they're any summer worthy.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
Like, subscribe, rate, and review the Scissors and Scrubs podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to us on. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Scissors and Scrubs. And email us any of your stories or thoughts to scissorsandscrubs@gmail.com.